All right. Can everyone see my screen? Okay. Okay, so we're talking about how addiction affects the family. I put this together actually for the company agency that I work for. And but since then I've made some modifications. And so I hope you learned something from this presentation. This is, as I said before, really a labor of love because it speaks to my heart considering I have experienced this. So here we go. We're going to be discussing rules and values, verbal and nonverbal methods of communication, boundaries, patterns of interaction, roles, enabling and tough love, and family recovery. So those are the things we're covering here. So who makes up a family? Well, of course, you have the family members, the immediate family, the parents, the siblings, the partners, the children. Then you have extended family, and that's your uncles, aunts, cousins. Then, of course, friends, colleagues from work, mentors, and even pets. So all of those people, all of those animals make up your family and anyone who might be able to support the recovery process. So all of those people, I would say, considered to be in the family. So substance abuse definitely causes dysfunction in the family. So if you see the two pictures here, on the one side, you see the family is functional, everyone seems to be in place, they're rotating on a mobile, things are functioning. But then if you look at the other side and you see dysfunction, you see the dad's hanging upside down, he's reaching for the alcohol, the mom is just ignoring everyone. One kid is sad, one kid almost looks like she's hanging herself. But there's just a lot of chaos happening in the family. So when you go into recovery, when a person is in recovery, the family also has to be in recovery. You can't really have just that person recover without the family doing its work as well. So if the family system doesn't change, then it's difficult for the recovering person to also make those changes. So there are many reasons why family members would be resistant to be in treatment. Here's some of the things that they often say. They want you to focus on the addicted person. He's just an alcoholic, just fix him, we'll be okay. Then there's the family members resist looking at their own behaviors because sometimes the family structure has become so dysfunctional that even their behaviors might trigger a person to use a trigger relapse. And then sometimes the family is afraid that if they go into treatment as a family unit, that the family can't be repaired, that they're so damaged that nothing can happen, or the system is so disrupted that then trying to fix it might create a situation where the system completely falls apart. So these are some of the reasons why families are afraid of actually going into treatment as a family unit. These are often some of the things that I have heard the families of the patients that I've worked with have said to me. So first, we're going to talk about family rules that are spoken or unspoken when you're in a dysfunctional family. So our focus is really on a family where there's someone addicted. However, this could be any dysfunctional family. So any dysfunctional situation, these this these family rules can occur. So don't talk, don't trust, don't feel. These were the rules in my family. Some were spoken, some were unspoken, but nonetheless, these were the rules. So, first of all, don't talk. So, talking about the problem will only make it worse. It's the family secret and never mention to anyone outside the family. Nothing is going to change, so even why bother? So, that is the whole don't talk perspective. Don't trust. Trusting will only lead to disappointment. You don't trust what you hear, what you see. Promises are made to be broken. So that's not trusting the person who's addicted, as well as not trusting the people around you, because there is that fear that if you tell someone around you, then they'll come in and totally destroy the family unit. And when you're in a family unit, your fear is losing everyone, even though it's completely chaotic. So then the other rule is don't feel. So feeling is for wimps. If you feel it's too painful, expressing painful feelings just isn't allowed because it causes more problems. This was definitely an unspoken rule in my home. I can't tell you how many times my father would tell me to wipe those tears. What are you crying for? There's no point of crying. This is just how it is. So we were pretty much taught not to feel. So those are the basic unspoken rules. So now we're going to look at the systems. So the first system is the rigid family system, the ambiguous family system, the overextended system, and the distorted system. And so I'm going to address each one, and each one has a different rule and way of thinking. So the rigid family system, there's strict rules, no exceptions. The rule keeper is exempted from the rules. The values, it's my way or the highway. Things are right or wrong, black or white. The motto is do it right or else. And the communication is completely from top down. So whoever is the head of this rigid system is the one that rules all the communication and all the emotions and all the opinions. In some aspects, there were some components of my family that was this way, but not completely. Then the ambiguous family system, when you look at rules, they're rules, but they're not really enforced. They're kind of lackadaisical. Values are always changing. It's just based on the situation that they're in. The motto is just to avoid conflict at all costs. No matter what we do, we just don't want to have conflicts. And then the communication is often a lot of mixed messages and often very confusing. Then the overextended family system, this was a little bit with my family. So there was the rule of being productive, stay busy, stay on the move, look good, achieve, work through your willpower, no time for feelings. We can achieve it, anything, whatever is pleasing to the parents. I have to say, this is kind of how I lived. I was constantly working, constantly doing something, constantly trying to achieve something. And some of those behaviors have really stuck with me, actually, even into my adult years. But definitely, this is a type of family system when there's dysfunction. Then there's the distorted family system. This one was really my family. It was, don't let outsiders know we're crazy, act normal as possible, maintain the illusion of normalcy despite all the problems. And the consideration is most families have problems, so it's okay. And then there was the mixed messages, and most family members were unavailable. So in my situation, my father was definitely unavailable and my mother was very depressed. And so therefore, much of the time she was unavailable as well. And the message consistently was, don't let anybody know what happens in this home. And it didn't really help that we lived in an all-white neighborhood. So then we definitely had to maintain appearances. So this was more than anything my family structure. All right, so we talked about communication being very confusing, threatening, from top down, having double messages, and all of these are different communication styles, but there are some specific communication styles that different family members will take on. So we're going to go over these communication styles. So the first style is the placator. So the placater really discounts themselves. They try to avoid conflict. They just agree with everything. The body language is submissive and feelings of being worthless. I have to say that the placater, oftentimes my mother took on this type of language. She just wanted to maintain the peace and keep everyone happy. So that was her communication style within my family structure. And then the blamer. So the blamer elevates themselves by discounting others. They use words that are critical. You can't do anything right. Body language is being more powerful and dominant. Feelings that it's other people's fault that they're unhappy. My father took on some of these characteristics, but not all. There were many times he said to us, well, I drink because I worry about you guys. I couldn't, now till this day, I still can't figure that out. But at the same time, a lot of his language was that. He drank because of this, he drank because of that. He, we're unhappy because of this situation over here, but never fully taking on the responsibility of why he is choosing to drink or why he went down the path of addiction. The intellectualizer. The goal is to place rigid emphasis on cognitive to figure out problems, use words that are extremely logical, that make sense and is reasonable. Body language is of being in control. Feelings are avoided, and it's the thinking that is important. During that time, that was 100% me. Even to the point my father would call me Mr. Spock, because everything was very logical. And I would say, well, that just doesn't make sense. So I was a very logical thinker, and I just tried not to experience any emotions at all. So this was definitely my communication style. Then the distractor. So this communication style is, the goal is to keep others and themselves away from painful feelings, use words that are confusing and irrelevant to the situation. Body language is often being someplace else. Feelings are avoided because they may cause pain. I had some of this, but this was really my brother. He often did stuff just to really distract the what was going on. He stayed away out of the house. He was often with his friends playing, and he was never home until most of us, we have the rule, when the street lights come on, you come home. He was gone from the time he woke up to the time the street lights came on. He was at the house. So his way of dealing was just not to be at home. And this carried on even as he moved into high school. Unfortunately, my father passed away while he was in high school, and then but that was his experience. He was always involved in something, just not to be at home. So that was his way of communicating. But leveling is where we want to be. So this is the preferred communication style. Oh, wow, I have a typo right there. So the language is assertive. The body language is positive. Words and body language match. You use I statements. Communication is realistic, and it's loving, supportive, but yet at the same time, you're able to set boundaries. So this is where we want to be in our communication style. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the roles. So much like the communication style, the roles actually sometimes match the style. So, and I have to say that these pictures that you're going to see are the same pictures that existed in the 80s. And I have not found any pictures that match as well, so I'm keeping them. So the roles of the family members, and we're going to go through them. The first one is the victim or the addict. They can be hostile, they can be manipulative, aggressive, blaming, self-pity, charming, or rigid. Now, The structure you'll see is mother, father, children, but this can happen in any family structure because sometimes it might be the child that's addicted and the child is exhibiting these behaviors. So so when you're working with families, think about that. With it's your family, think about what your role might be in the family. So in my family, this definitely was my father. Then the chief enabler. So this person assumes the responsibility for the chemical dependent person, protects and shelters, may even deny the problem or minimize the problem, attempt to control or take the responsibility, rationalizes and accepts. This definitely was my mother's role, but I do want to say these roles change. People do not stay these roles because when I started driving and was in college, somehow I became the enabler because I was the one taking my dad to the liquor store and taking him here and taking him there and trying to keep him safe and protect him. And I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I didn't really realize it until after I was much older and he passed away and I was doing my own personal self-work through this, that I realized that my role actually changed to the chief enabler. Okay. Then the hero. So growing up, I was this person. So the child that was a big achiever, the family would say, you know, she's doing so well. Our family's good. Everything is great. Look at Monica. She's getting all these A's and B's. She's doing in all these organizations, blah, 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 blah. So our family's self-worth was tied up in my accomplishments. And so I definitely had this role. So if you look in the picture, she's cooking, she's doing her homework, and she's taking care of the baby. So in my family, the baby was my younger brother. So I definitely carried on those roles. Then the scapegoat. So this is the person in the family who diverts the family attention by creating problems. So this kid or person may actually demonstrate antisocial behaviors, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are antisocial, but they may demonstrate these behaviors. And the whole purpose is to divert the attention away from everything else that's happening in the family. So then that person then becomes the problem and not the addicted person. This was not anyone in my family. I did not see this. There were times my brother got in trouble, but not much. But we didn't see this role in my family. The lost child, this one is considered the most tragic role. It allows, this person takes care of themselves. The family doesn't have to pay much attention to them. They're often very emotionally disconnected. At times I was this, but for the most part, I was the hero. We did not see this particular role in my family. However, I will say that when the role shifted and I became the enabler, my mother was a bit of this lost child because there was not any attention given to her and she was sick. But somehow she managed to just do things and she did not get much attention at all because all the attention was given to my father, who was the one who had the addiction. And then we have the mascot. Now this was definitely my brother. His, again, much like the scapegoat, the role is to take attention away from family issues, but they do it from a sense of being silly, funny, minimizing their sense of worth to alleviate pain. So you have the scapegoat who takes on the same role. However, he or she gets into trouble, whereas the mascot does silly, fun things to divert the pain. So my brother was more of this sort of role. So I want you guys to think about people you've worked with and see if you can see these different roles in different family members or even within your own family, which role you may take on. Okay. So now we're going to talk about dysfunctional helping and its impact to the family. So when you have someone in the family who is addicted, you want to help them, you want to support them, you want to try and control the environment around them, you want to take care of them. And it's really hard, and it's unfair to the family members to take on that all of that responsibility. So we're going to talk about what dysfunctional helping and tough love looks like. So we're going to explore this a little bit. So here's dysfunctional helping. There are different parts to it. So the first part is the impulsive rescuing and feeling as though when the person gets in these predicaments. So with the examples that are shown here, you have the son who used all his money for drugs and he couldn't pay the rent, but the parents step in and pay rent so they don't get evicted. Or the daughter who keeps getting arrested because of being drunk in public, and then the family won't let her stay in jail. They immediately get her out of jail because, they care for her and they love her. Then there's the enabling rather than the helping. So helping is helping someone to do something they can't do for themselves. Enabling is doing something for someone that they can and should be doing for themselves. So for example, with my father, I was enabling by driving him to the liquor store. That's enabling. You're enabling when the person gets arrested and you get him out of jail. And what they got arrested for was something pretty serious as it related to their addiction. So that's enabling, is constantly trying to protect them. And then there's the codependent behavior, and that's another topic altogether that I'm not even going to touch. But codependency is really creating a situation or having a situation where your self-worth, your self-esteem relies on helping and being supportive of the dysfunctional person. So in a nutshell, that's what codependency is. But that's a whole nother education that we're not going to discuss here. So then you want to try and control behaviors and control the environment. So one behavior that you might do when you have someone that's addicted in your family is that you just don't talk to them. You just detach to them. You just don't say anything. That was me. I just didn't talk to my father many days. I would just let him be drunk and wouldn't even say anything other than hello. So you don't talk. You lie. You lie to your family. You lie to your friends. You lie to their bosses to help them save their job. You constantly lie to protect. And then make threats. I can't tell you how many times my mother threatened to divorce my father, but it never happened. But you make threats rather than set boundaries. And then adjusting. So you do things to adjust your schedule and adjust your life so you can attend to them. And then canceling. So you cancel trips, you cancel time spent with other people. There were many times my mother canceled attending events, canceled times to spend with the rest of our family because she felt like she needed to be home to protect my father. So there's a lot of canceling of plans. There were even times we didn't go to church because he was too intoxicated and she was afraid that he would do something dangerous. So there's a lot of canceling of plans. Then assuming responsibility. So just taking care of everything. My mother assumed a lot of responsibilities that really a father should have been doing. I assumed responsibilities. You see that. Hiding and dumping. I got in trouble a lot for dumping out the alcohol, by the way. So, but hiding and dumping, you do that because you think it's going to help. Doing the geographic, some people will actually move to help the addicted person recover. That doesn't always work because drugs and alcohol are everywhere. And if someone wants to use, they're going to find it. So that didn't help. And lecturing is another way people try to control, and then avoiding or pretending that the addiction just doesn't even exist. So these are behaviors that people do in order to control their environment. And then here's the full impact that happens with families. There's a loss of sleep, lots of headaches and stress. You have physical problems like stomach problems, weight changes up or down. There's anger, there's rage, excessive worry and anxiety, isolation, avoiding family and friends, employment issues, martyrdom, inability to focus sometimes, total preoccupation. It's sometimes even people in the family will become destructive on their own. They'll start using drugs, or they'll start spending a lot of money, or they'll start doing other destructive things, and or become addicted themselves. And then there's depression. So all of that can happen in a family where addiction has become unmanageable. And that is definitely the best time to seek help and assistance. So you definitely want to, as a family unit, seek out help. So then here's the concept of tough love. And I know many of us have heard this or have seen it on TV years ago, but this is what this means. It's tough because it's hard to do, not because you're being tough on the person, but you are. So you're setting limits and you're maintaining those boundaries. You stick to your boundaries no matter what. It's refusing to support the addictive behavior and choosing to support the person. So if the person is in recovery, they're doing what they need to do to get themselves better, then you support them. If they're not, you don't support them. So that's what tough love looks like. So it means you stop the enabling behavior, you stop covering up, you stop lying, you stop making excuses, you stop loaning money, no cleaning up their messes, no trying to bribe them. If you stay clean and sober, then I'll do blah, 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 blah. You stop the don't talk rule. You start talking. I started talking to one of my best friends first. Then I went to Catholic school, so I started talking to one of the sisters at the school. So I opened my mouth and started talking. Now, it didn't really make my home situation better, but it helped me to be able to weather through the storm. So I had a sister at school, Sister Brendan. To this day, I still love this woman. And every morning, she let me check in with her just so I can get myself ready to do school, to be there in school, because at this point, my father's addiction had gotten really bad. He wasn't working. We were in and out of the hospital all the time. His body was starting to fall apart. Basically, he had been diagnosed with cirrhosis, and it was just hard to function. And so she was my supporter as I finished my last couple of years in high school. But what you do is you stop rescuing the addiction and you start rescuing the person. So detachment with love, much like tough love, is a different concept, but it's still the same. And this is a concept that's taught by Al-Anon. And Al-Anon is an organization much like AA, but it's for the families. So their motto is detachment is neither kind nor unkind. It does not imply judgment or condemnation of the person or situation from which we are detaching. It simply means that it allows us to separate ourselves from the adverse effects that another person's alcoholism addiction can have on our lives. So it really just means you take a step back, you start taking care of yourself and not the other person, and let that other person come to the conclusion that they need to start taking care of themselves. And I've realized and know that that's very hard when you all are in the same family and in the same home, but somehow you have to make that happen. We tried Al-Anon once, but because I was so intellectual, I went to the meeting and I said, you know, I don't have time to go because all these people are crying and I don't have time for crying. I got work to do. So Al-Anon was, so I didn't have the patience for Al-Anon. But in hindsight, I could have done that, but to be completely transparent, when I moved here to San Diego, I looked up an organization called Adult Children of Alcoholics, and I attended some of those meetings and found it to be very helpful, and went through the process of healing myself. So, and learned a lot just by attending a few of those meetings. So detachment really means that you detach yourself from that person and their drama, basically, and their addiction, but it doesn't mean you love them any less. It just means you can't be there for them while they're in this full-blown addiction and destruction. But when they decide they want recovery and they want treatment and they want to do something different, then you can step in and be with them 100%. So that's what that looks like. And so with detachment with love, I'm just going to be repeating what I just said. So you really recognize what your needs are and you meet your own needs and look less at the person who's addicted. And I hope I'm making that clear. So let's move on to the next slide. So now we're going to look at the stages of recovery. So this is really important. I didn't want to have this discussion without talking about the recovery component of addiction in a family. So the stages are active addiction, transition, early recovery, and ongoing recovery. So I have this YouTube video by Stephanie Brown. She is a researcher in addiction and specifically addiction in families. So this is a really short YouTube video that I am going to show for us now. And if somebody...
What happens for every member of a family when one or more people stop drinking or stop their active addiction? There are 4 stages in active addiction and recovery. They're very loose and general, but they're important. First of all is active addiction, active chemical dependency, active alcoholism. That is when the family is organized around maintaining the addiction. They don't want to change. They're afraid of changing. They are all immersed as a family into defense.
We got married and she was pregnant and I didn't want to see that, you know. I was too busy drinking and smoking a lot of pot. So it was really hard coming back home, you know. I knew I was gonna go, you know, home and start fighting with her or, you know, like arguing about it. And I always say, you know, like, it's not a big issue, you know, it's just me going with the homeboys, you know, for a night out.
It wasn't until after we got married that I saw that he would go out every night with his friends and would come back drunk. And that's when I started noticing that it was a problem, an addiction.
Addiction. As soon as that's identified, things will begin to change, and the family goes into what we call the transition stage, stage 2. Transition is this period, the end of active addiction and the move into abstinence. It's not yet recovery. It's not yet recovery. It's dry. Transition is that very critical period when the drinking stops and the abstinence begins. Everybody in the family may go along. That's just wonderful. That's the best of all possible worlds. Lots of times, this is the point when an individual, the actively addicted person, a partner, will go into a treatment program, and hopefully everybody goes too.
I just got tired of living the way I was living. I realized that I wasn't contributing the way that I knew that I could.
So the big shift in new recovery for family members is to focus on the self.
John's going to take care of his problem on his own. We can't do that. And I think we've all learned that part of it. But now we have to take a step forward and figure out, okay, so now what?
Early recovery is stage 3, and early recovery takes months, if not years, to get into. Transition lasts months of stabilizing. And early recovery is really defined by a lessening of impulse, a lessening of this quick, knee-jerk response by everybody to need to do something quick. Stage 4, ongoing recovery. You probably are hoping for the happy ending. Well, there is one, but it's not an ending. Ongoing means just that. By ongoing recovery, which is years of new learning, the family has its sense of knowing who it is and how it works as a recovering family.
Now I have tools to help me through those times of uncertainty, knowing that anything is better now that I'm not drinking.
And so it's just really good to see her the way she is right now, and she looks 100% better and just more motivated, and it's great, and I like it.
Okay. All right. All right, so that's really the end of my presentation. So here's some food for thought. Why is it important to set boundaries with your family around your sobriety and recovery? So why is it important to set those boundaries? What role are you playing in your family members' addiction? What tools do you need in order to set boundaries to protect your family? What would detachment with love look like for you? And are you practicing tough love? So those are definitely areas to consider and to think about. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you very much. So before we move on, I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth. I'll stop my share right now to do some relaxation now that we've really dealt with this heavy duty conversation.
Hi, everybody. So I know sometimes after watching learning or training, or if you've grown up in a situation where you experienced this with someone, it can bring up some triggering. So we thought we would help you out, and if not, and you're just had a lot of busy this week, I do a training on developing style for how to relax. So I call it BAR, where you breathe, body check, address what you're feeling, release it, and then you come to a point where you reward yourself for doing that. So as we all know, you can actually get benefit out of stress. There's positive stress and negative stress, so all stress isn't bad. But if we aren't doing body checks mindfully all day long, we can actually carry stuff with us throughout the day that is affecting our choices. So having a tool to help you take a moment, and I do this once every hour, and it helps me. I'm 63, and I'm able to get up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and go until midnight. So I kind of attribute it to the fact that I have learned to do this on a regular. And there's nothing new really about the practice. It's just I have learned over the years, because I've been doing this for a long time, a breathing rhythm that seems to help people relax more than they realized they could. So this is interactive. So you're going to want to take a moment and take your hands and your fingertips, and then you put them on your jaw at the mandible and just do a circular motion. It doesn't matter which way you go. Just massage those jaw muscles. I actually am a massage technician, so, but I've been doing massage since I was 4. That's a whole different story. And this actually helps with blood flow, which will aid in thought and mood. And then I go up once and down, and I thank myself. Okay, so now we're going to do some breathing. And this is really huge. So just take a moment, relax, and I'm going to explain it to you before we practice it. Okay, so we're going to do what I call the ABCs of breathing. So A, we're going to first take a moment, put your hands together, and then bring your hands down as you pull your shoulders down. Our shoulders are an extremely good indicator of whether or not we're starting to do this. As we start letting words or, a thought cause us tension, we start to round our shoulders in. If you've ever seen someone who literally has extremely rounded shoulders and they start to get that curve in their neck, a lot of times we can develop that just from even sitting at the computer too much, right? And we start to round forward. Well, once you start doing that, you're telling your body that you're in tension, whether you really are or not, because that's a natural response. When we get in fight or flight, you do this, even in freeze. So bring your shoulders down, and then we're going to start practicing the breathing. And I'm going to have you breathe in to my count, and it's going to be a 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to pause and hold that for a moment. And then we're going to breathe out 1, 2, 3. And each time you do this outward, I want you to allow and feel every single muscle in your body from the top of your head down through your center and out your toes until you feel yourself getting heavier and heavier and grounded to the earth. Okay, so here we go. I recommend that you also close your eyes and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Here we go. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold it. Drop your shoulders, relax, breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Feel those muscles sink, breathe in. 1, 2, 3, hold. Drop everything again. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Third time. You should be feeling sunk. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Drop down. Hold. Out. 1, 2, 3. Breathe normal and continue to hold your shoulders down. Put your hands on your knees. Breathe in. Breathe out. Open your eyes. Now, if you notice, that only took a little bit of time and you actually recentered and grounded again. It's also a really good time, I find, to reconnect. And as I count, I've gotten so good at the counting and the rhythm that I actually start running through my mind what I've already accomplished and what I'm going to be doing present to meet what I need to do next. And with that, we're finished.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
All right. So are there any questions? So let's look in the chat. I don't have any questions in the chat. So any thoughts?
You're welcome, Julie.
So I'll just chime in. I want to commend you. I love your presentations always, Dr.
Thank you.
Monica.
Thank
But,
you.
but I really want to just